So I decided that I'm going to kick this YouTube thing off, mostly because they're taking TikTok away from me and I need an outlet to yap about sports. So here we are. Sometimes I just have a lot to say, and this is one of those times. We're in an interesting place in UConn season where we're not quite halfway through the season. UConn doesn't have many more top 25 opponents lined up. They have 2. So even though the team has a lot of developing to do, we've also seen a lot of their toughest challenges this season already. So based on these early results, I thought I would rate each player's performance so far this season. Now, there's obviously going to have to be a lot of nuance in these rankings. For example, I'm not going to hold a freshman to the same standards I would a senior. Each player has created their own expectations, and those obviously do factor into the ratings to some extent. To start things off, I do have quite a few players on UConn's roster where I'm going to give them a grade of incomplete. Some are pretty self-explanatory who have been injured, so their grade is incomplete. I've also decided to give a grade of incomplete to Caden Samuels and Ali Zabel because I just don't feel that we've seen enough from them to warrant giving them a grade, which only really leaves 9 players for me to give a grade to. And I'm going to start with the youngest players, so Sarah Strong and Morgan Shelley. My rating for Sarah Strong is an A. I have been beyond impressed by Sarah's performance. She plays such a well-rounded game. First and foremost, I'm going to start with scoring. What really matters to me there is not only how much she's scoring, but also the fact that she has shown that she can create her own shot. And shot creation is something that I feel this team is sorely lacking outside of a few players. And it's always just so nice to have a big who is a legitimate threat from 3. Again, Sarah Strong is kind of unstoppable offensively, at least from what we've seen so far. And sure, maybe that's because a lot of teams are focusing their defensive effort on Paige, but they're going to continue to do that. And that opens up a lot of opportunity for Sarah Strong. And I have full confidence in her to take that opportunity and deliver, which you really can't say about most freshmen. But what's arguably even more impressive is her court vision. Her passing is tremendous, and her defense is also so solid. She really held her own against Kiki Iriafen at the USC game, which was not something I necessarily expected her to do. I thought that would be a really challenging matchup for her, and it definitely was, but she did hold her own, and I was really impressed by that. Now moving on to her classmate Morgan Shelley, I'd give Morgan Shelley a grade of a C+. And for context, because people understand these grading systems differently, I think of a C as like perfectly average, so a C+ is slightly above average. And then a C- would be slightly below average, and then the 2 extremes. I've seen many people compare Morgan Shelley to Aubrey Griffin, and I just think that's such a good example of what she brings to this team. Energy, defensive effort, rebounding. There's definitely still a lot of questions regarding Morgan's game. I'm kind of less concerned about the offensive game. I think that'll come with time, but I really would like to see improvements on the ball handling front because I think these skills are more relevant to her current position. But for all the areas she has to grow, it's clear by the amount of minutes that Morgan is getting that the coaching staff has a lot of confidence in her. And there's already been some occasions where UConn has desperately needed her energy and her hustle and her heart that she brings to the game, and she delivered. As of now, I think she's been doing a good job in the role that's been given to her. And for the last freshman, who is a redshirt freshman, I would also give Jana El Alfi a grade of a C+. Jana is someone, maybe more than anyone else on this team, who I would really just like to see more playing time from. She has seen much more limited minutes than I maybe expected, specifically because this team really doesn't have anyone to replace her. If Jana's out of the game, usually UConn is running some kind of small ball lineup, and as much as I love a small ball lineup, I was just hoping that UConn would be able to get away from that more this season because it was all they did last season, and that hasn't really been the case so far. I really did want to see a lot more of her, especially in this early stretch when UConn's playing these more challenging teams with stronger front courts. She did have a super strong showing against Boston University in the first game of the season, and then eventually followed it up with strong showings against Oregon State and Ole Miss. So Jana has shown that she can come into the game and have an impact, and she really does need that playing time to continue to develop her game. Things like her ability to post players up and her defensive game and her ability to assert herself on the court. I'm really hoping that she gets more of it, and I'm feeling hopeful about her progression this year. Moving on to the sophomores, I'm going to start off with Ashlyn Shade. I would give her a grade of a B+. I was eagerly anticipating her jump into her sophomore year, and she has basically met that expectation for me. Ashlyn's performance in the Iowa State game was one for the books. I'm probably going to keep on hammering this point home, but shot creation, in my opinion, is something that UConn really desperately needs, and Ashlyn Shade does bring that to the table. She can not only shoot the 3, but she has a great mid-range game, and that's definitely kind of a lost art in the current era of basketball, so I'm glad to see that she pretty much has the green light to shoot those. She's very efficient as well. She always takes smart shots. I would say, though, that the one area to improve in terms of her offensive game would be consistency. There's definitely games where her shot is on, and there's definitely games where her shot is off, and it usually has a huge impact on her production and value for the rest of the game, because though she is a great defender, she is competing against some other guards who are better defenders than her. So if Ashlyn isn't on offensively for the night, she's often taken out of the game, which is then frustrating because then UConn loses one of its biggest 3-point threats at the moment. So overall, B+. I'm very pleased with the jump this year, but definitely consistency is the thing to work on. It's especially needed in those big games like Notre Dame, USC, etc. Moving on to KK Arnold, I would give her a grade of a C for this season so far. I'm super high on KK, so maybe this is in part influenced by my own expectations of what KK's season was going to look like. And she is playing in a new role by coming off the bench rather than starting. And I think it has been a rough season for KK. I do wholeheartedly believe that she's better than what she's shown us this season. I think the main area for growth would be the offensive side of the ball. I'm definitely looking forward to her developing a more consistent 3-point shot. We've seen her hit them, and I just want that to become a more consistent, more reliable thing. I was really shocked to hear that Iowa State game was her first 3-pointer made the entire season. So I definitely think there's ways to go up from there. Also, always room to grow in terms of her court vision and ball handling. Defensively, I kind of have no notes. You can count on KK to bring the defensive energy every single time. She is going to hustle. She wants to win, and you can see it. Like, she looks like she wants to win more than anyone else on the court. The way that she plays and the way that she fires herself up and all her teammates up. And that's the stuff that, in my opinion, you really can't teach. We have seen some issues from UConn with perimeter defense so far this season, though. I hope that is a focus from the guards and from KK for later on this season, because that will be so incredibly crucial come March. But for the final sophomore, the redshirt sophomore, Ice Brady, I would give her a grade of a D. Ice has definitely been thrust into her role this season, and I think it's pretty evident that something's not working. A lot of people believe that she's playing out of position, so they would rather see her as the 4, with Jana next to her as the 5, rather than her playing the 5 as she is now. And I think that's definitely a possibility UConn should explore, especially because they play so much small ball that it would be nice to have a bigger lineup for once. But I think Ice has just had pretty low production this season. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't think shot creation is a strength of the current UConn front court. I just don't think UConn has any bigs who can be counted on to get a basket outside of Sarah. And I think Ice has also had her struggles defensively, especially in big games against established post players, which again, it's her first season playing these really big minutes and in this new position, so it's understandable, but it still has been a liability for the team. And in terms of rebounding, this team desperately needs offensive rebounding, and I would really like to see that come from Ice. I think that's something that she can really focus on and grow in this season, because it will just be so valuable for this team. Like, I consistently make the joke that Ashlyn Shade goes to get an offensive rebound more than maybe any other player on this team, and I know that might not be true, and I know the stats like completely disagree with that, but I always see Ashlyn Shade around the basket when it's time to get an offensive rebound, and it will be no other players except Ashlyn Shade, and I'm just appreciative that Ashlyn's at least around the basket. There's a possibility of an offensive rebound there, but the rest of the team needs to get on it, because I am sick. She had some big moments last March, and I'm really hopeful that that will continue this season. I never realized until today that AZ's listed as a graduate student on the UConn roster. Anyways, I'm just gonna talk about AZ now, because in my heart, she's a senior, and my grade for AZ Fudd would be a B+. Again, I do want to say that I think it's very difficult to compare players' grades to each other, because am I saying that Ashlyn and AZ have had equivalent seasons? No, because their seasons have looked very different. I have been so impressed by AZ's comeback this season. Her first few games were definitely an adjustment, but she got hot fast, and it changed everything for this UConn team. Versus Ole Miss, literally what would we have done without her? And versus Louisville, she was on fire. And some people might be asking why I didn't give AZ a grade of an incomplete, considering she only has played like 5.5 games. I'm not going to count the USC game as a full game played. And it's mostly because she's such a big part of this team that even in just the few games that she's played, you can see how she fundamentally changes the game that UConn can play. The opportunities that she sees and takes for herself, but also the opportunities that she opens up for her teammates, because everyone is collapsing on AZ Fudd. You can't let her get an inch of space or it's over, because she is a lethal scorer from every single area of the court. And to my earlier point about shot creation that I was like harping on, I don't even worry about shot creation when AZ Fudd is on the court. That's how good she is. The reasons I haven't put her in that A category are really just that. Again, I just don't know that we've seen enough of her, and there are clear signs in her game that she's working herself back from injury, which again is perfectly normal, and I just love to see that she's playing single-handedly changes their national championship hopes. Now we're into fifth-year graduate transfer territory. I'm going to start with Caitlin and then go to Paige. For Caitlin Chen, I would give her a grade of a C. This, similar to KK, might be because of my own expectations. And again, Caitlin's not only playing a new role, but she's also playing a new role in a completely different system. than she's been playing for the past 4 years. And I think Caitlin has fit in pretty seamlessly. She definitely seems to have good chemistry with the other players on the team. I think I was just expecting a score-first point guard. She was averaging 15, 16 points a game at Princeton, and we haven't seen anywhere near that level of offensive output from her in her time at UConn so far. And it would be one thing if that output wasn't needed, like everyone was scoring in excess and she was just the one running the offense. But there have been multiple occasions where UConn has really needed someone to score, and Caitlin hasn't necessarily stepped into that role. Again, shot creation. UConn doesn't have an abundance of scoring. They need people to score, and Caitlin definitely has the ability to do so. I would really like her to look for her shot more. She's made some crucial threes in big games. But overall, I've been very impressed by her effort. She's definitely an above average defender, I think. Last but not least, Paige Bueckers. Funnily enough, pretty difficult to rate. I think most of us can acknowledge that this has not been her strongest start to the season, but she's also played well and come up big in big moments. But she also dealt with a rare slump, but her efficiency is still high. But her team has come up short in 2 big games. But in those games, she was hitting shots while being double and triple teamed. She is a game changer, and she makes the players around her better. Her team simply wouldn't have not been in the game without her. But she's also playing, in my opinion, and in many people's opinion, out of position. Looking at her performance this season, there's clearly that next level from Paige that can be unlocked. And I think a lot of people, myself included, think that putting the ball in her hands more will help her do just that. I would really like to see her look for her shot more, even if she is playing off ball. I know that's difficult, especially because it's hard to even get her the ball sometimes with how she's being guarded, but still the team needs her to score to be successful. All of this to say, A-. What can I say about Paige Bueckers that hasn't been said already? I feel like Paige has proven everything to me that she needs to prove. Like, I have full faith in her abilities as a basketball player. I have full confidence in her. Does that mean that I think her game is above criticism or that she doesn't have room to grow? No, it's just that for me, I've been watching Paige for her entire time at UConn, and there's few players that I've had so much belief in to be able to lead their team while they were still in college. So those were my player ratings for UConn's 2024-2025 season so far. There's still a lot of time for these ratings to change. I hope everyone ends the season on an A. Personally, I believe in this team, and I'm very hopeful for what the rest of the season and March will bring. Let me know what your ratings would be. I'm really interested to hear if there are any strong agreements or strong disagreements. Who are your favorite players on the team, and who are the players who have impressed you the most this season? I'd really love to hear it all. So I hope you enjoyed my first long form video. And yeah, if you like more content like this, stick around.